Welcome to the Do It Anyway podcast. I am your host, Maria Redmond, here to take you on this wild journey of everything fitness, nutrition, cardio, craziness, everything in between. I want to welcome you today for episode number 17. Thank you, everyone, for tuning into this podcast for the last 17 weeks. It has actually been extremely amazing. I've gotten so much feedback from everyone, and I want to say thank you to all of you from the bottom of my heart. I read the comments. I answer all the comments. I try to answer the questions. So if you've been leaving comments and questions on YouTube, please continue to do so. Be sure to like and subscribe. And if you are new to this podcast, I want to welcome you to the Do It Anyway with Maria Redmond. Just do it. You can catch more episodes on Spotify and Applecast, and again, as well as YouTube. Be sure to like and subscribe for me and share it with anyone that you think might find the information valuable. Um, so, with that, we are here with episode 17. And I wanted to talk to you all today about a really, really important topic of protein, and kind of get into the 5 key points about why protein is really so vital for the human body. Um, I kind of think that we look at protein when we bring it up as just this macronutrient, right? Everyone knows it's a main macronutrient. We must have it. I mean, almost everybody knows that you need to have like 86, grams per kilogram of body weight, or for us Americans, 1 gram per pound of body weight. And that's typically what we know about in terms of how much. And then the next thing we tend to know is that, okay, we need it so we can grow big, beefy muscles. And that's kind of the extent, I think, of the knowledge of most people. Well, there's so much more to protein, and I figured I'd take you on a small little deep dive into protein and why it's so critical. So, first things first, protein is extremely essential in the body for building and repairing tissues. Um, we're not just talking your muscles, but we're talking your skin, bones, all of your organs, and it helps repair things like your tendons and ligaments when you get injury. So if you're a person, I see this very commonly in runners. They tend to have a more carbohydrate and fat heavy diet, mostly carbohydrate, and very, very low on protein. And the theory with a lot of runners, especially endurance runners, is that, well, we want to be as light as possible and have enough fuel in the tank by way of carbohydrate to, fuel our runs. Well, they're not thinking about how much muscle is being destroyed in the process and how much muscle they actually need to run. So they're kind of negating that. And typically, what happens from a lot of volume of running, they end up with a lot of injuries that tend to linger on and on and on for an extended period of time. So, if you're someone in the running world and you tend to get a lot of injuries, I want to urge you to start looking at your protein intake and start raising it up some so that you can, help your body repair, from any of those injuries that you're getting. So it's really, really vital in terms of injury, prevention and repair. So that's one key thing with protein. The next thing that you need protein for, and this is huge, especially for females. It is huge and essential for making the body's enzymes and hormone production. There have been plenty studies that have been shown where men's bodies can take a bit more abuse, but also in men. When we women are deficient in protein, our hormone levels tend to take really deep dives. And so you're getting plummeting estrogen and estradiol. And I mean, it's kind of like becomes a bit of a roller coaster. This is why a lot of women struggle with also losing weight and getting into really good shape or even building some muscle because they're not taking in enough protein for hormone production for the process of muscle to even be built or for fat to be lost. So, again, extremely critical for that process of hormone production and creating essential enzymes in the body, which help the body, fight off different things. Which leads me to my third. Without enough protein in the body, your immune system can't function. So I think you're starting to see hopefully you're seeing the bigger picture here. protein is essential for almost everything in the body. So your immune system helps to produce antibodies, which helps you fight off all the different germs that come into the body. Um, Without it, low people that tend to walk around with low amounts of protein intake, they're not building enough of the immune system, the cells that we need in the immune system to fight off any of the viruses. So if you're a person that's constantly sick all the time, I want to urge you to look at your diet and see, okay, am I taking in enough protein and is this the reason why? If your protein is low, you've got to bump it up. And I want to tell you, at least start with how much your body weight is in that many grams of protein. So if you're 150 pounds, start with 150 grams of protein. If you're a person that works out, now we're taking it into a whole different bracket, right? Because now you're expending energy, you're creating muscle damage, so you'll need a bit more protein. So when I am doing nutrition plans for my clients, I am thinking about their activity level. I have a lot of runners that I train and do their nutrition plans for. I have a lot of people that lift weights. And then I have some people that are just moms and dads that are at home that just want good general health. No matter what boat that they're sitting in, I am looking at making sure that they have enough protein to sustain their normal level of body function. And then if they're doing more than that, my athletes, then I'm bumping it up so that I can make sure that there's enough in the tank to sustain all of those different activities. When you start getting into things like strength training, and I mean like real strength training, like you're really doing it big time, and powerlifting, CrossFit is another one. That those three, I tend to see people with decreased amount of protein, and I'm telling you right now, they are always injured. Always, always, always. With the exception, I think, of maybe like bodybuilders, right? We tend to know to prioritize protein because we're going to go into a steep deficit diet. And we know that the only thing that's going to be very muscle sparing is going to be protein. But for everyone else, they're so reliant on carbohydrates for the energy that they just kind of kick the protein to the side. And then next thing you know, someone's, progress is going really well, or they're training for their, CrossFit event or High Rocks event. And then boom, major injury to a ligament or tendon. And when you start looking at what they were doing nutritionally, they cut way too many calories, but they also cut a lot of the protein out. So a big chunk of the calories were missing in the protein spot. That is the last place that you want to pull any calories from. You always keep your protein high. Another key thing that protein works with is your brain. So, just like your brain needs glucose to function, which is why carbohydrates are good for you, your brain also needs protein to function. It helps to fire all the different synapses that are happening in the brain throughout the body. Again, it's going to be redundant, but deficiencies in that have been proven to bring on early onset dementia, chronic fatigue, uh, having a hard time just sleeping because the brain can't settle itself. So you really do need protein. These last 5 years, so many studies have been done on protein and why we really need it for just body function that it's insane. So again, if you're a person that's, keeping the protein low, you're going to have a bunch of problems. Now, caveat, the only group of people that should be monitoring their protein is if you have some type of a kidney disease. If you're struggling with your kidneys, having a high protein diet is not for you. However, that being said, I think far too many that present with some type of kidney function disorder or disease, their doctors, excuse me, who have no nutritional counseling, have them on nutrition protocols with the protein way too low, and you're starting to wither away. I worked with a client earlier in the year that was like that, and exercising was difficult. Just her keeping her balance was difficult. It was really, really hard to watch. So eventually, I just had to sit her down and say, "Hey, I know you're struggling with this, but having 60 grams of protein when you weigh 120 pounds is not nearly enough. And then you're coming here to try to exercise to improve, make improvements. you're just not getting enough protein. In addition, her age, she was already, I want to say, in her late 60s. And as you age, you do not process protein the same way. You actually process less of it. So the older you are, the more protein you actually need. So, again, aside from someone just struggling with a kidney disorder or kidney disease, you'll need a bit more guidance, but still watch the amount of protein that you're taking in there, because you'll still will need some. Um, then there's point number 4 with protein. And this is the main one, the main driver of why everyone, wants to load up on their protein for those that do. It's because of muscle growth, right? It most meats, or most protein sources, I guess I should say, carry essential, amino acids and things that you need to build muscle. And that's why they're critical. Also plant-based. This is from meat eaters to plant-based as well. Having that protein source is definitely going to be the key factor that you need to build muscle. There there's no way around it. You will not build muscle without protein in your diet, whether you're plant-based or meat-based. So you must have it regardless. Now, if you're plant based, why you have a harder time building muscle, say, versus someone that eats meat or, fish sources, it's because the plant base doesn't have as many of the nutrients, minerals, and vitamins, of course, as meat do. They are very, very different compounds. So you're missing out. Also, it doesn't have the higher amounts of protein in them as a plant would. So, 4 ounces of steak may have 20 grams of protein, where, oh my gosh, you know, maybe 15 ounces of tofu, you're talking about maybe 12 grams, 13 grams, depending on your brand. And so you'd have to eat copious amounts of it, which is what makes a vegetarian or vegan diet very difficult in terms of putting on muscle mass, because you'd have to eat so much of it. You're going to be in a caloric surplus, for one, and just to get enough of the protein in. And then your carbohydrates and fats will probably be through the roof, which will be more than what your body needs. So, learning to have a really good formulated nutrition plan if you're vegan or vegetarian is going to be key, but make sure you're prioritizing the protein in those diets so that you can get the muscle growth. Um, Other than that, you're not going to get it. Also, maintaining muscle mass, right? So, for me, people are always like, well, how much protein do you eat? And I have about 230 to 250 grams of protein a day. Now, do I weigh 230, 250? Absolutely not. But I am extremely active and I'm always causing muscle damage throughout the entire day, from a run, from a bike ride, from weight training. I think the one thing that I'm not, where I'm sparing my muscles, is when I'm swimming. So my demand is going to be higher, and I'm also aware that I'm aging, right? So I am not processing as much of the protein as I did when I was 30 at the same rate. I'm probably 230 grams of protein right now is probably really yielding me maybe 205, 210 grams realistically that I'm really utilizing. Um, the rest of it, again, as you age, this process just happens. Your body slows down on processing it. So that's why you have to make sure that you've got enough just to maintain the muscle mass that you have. Now, when I go into a bulk phase, I take my protein up to about 280 grams. For me, that's just my max. I don't feel like I'm getting any further benefit, or I've seen that I've not gotten any further benefit going higher than that, besides, maybe elevating health markers in places that they don't need to be elevated. So, um, if you want to maintain the muscle mass, remember, you're going to need to eat at least your body weight just to maintain. If you're active and you're trying to have that much in protein, you're just spinning your wheels. You're going to lose muscle. So, hopefully that makes it clear. Now, I want to go a little bit deeper on protein, and I think this is going to kind of encompass all of it: protein, carbs, and fats, just eating calories. When you're older, and when I say older, I'm talking about age 50 going up, but then 60, 70, I have clients in that bracket. And I was just talking with my one client, Mick. She went on a vacation and gained some weight, as most people do on vacation, right? And it wasn't a bunch. We're talking about 6, 7 pounds here. It really wasn't as bad as it could be. But when she got back, her first inclination, and mostly everyone's first thought is, I'll cut my calories down. I should lose some weight, right? Because we've been taught calories in, calories out. Well, she's in her 70s. She's 71 to be exact. So she cut the calories and her weight started going up instead of down. But she works out every single day. She trains every day. She was doing cardio, so she's putting a lot of demand on her body. And her body had no idea where she was going to get this fuel from because she's now under eating and she wasn't eating enough protein. And honestly, she had been doing this for years, right? She's been working out mostly her whole life. She's in really, really good shape, but she's always been under eating. So now she was starting to have a decline in muscle mass for quite a while. It wasn't just this vacation. So we sat down, we talked about it, and I said, look, you've got to eat all of the food, especially your protein. So she listened because she was now at her wit's end because that little bit of weight gain, it threw her off. It threw her off. She was not happy. She did not like it. And I'm honest, I'm honest. I saw her one day and I was like, you look like a little sausage. And she did not like that. So she made some changes and she listened, and it's been 2 solid weeks of her just eating the calories, getting the protein in, to the point where there were a couple nights she decided she was going to get up and eat some more eggs because she was, one, hungry, and she needed to get the protein in. And in these 2 weeks, her body has changed drastically from pickly to looking really, really good. And her strength levels are back. Like, I noticed that too. Like, when we were lifting, I had her, rowing with 50-pound dumbbells at one point. And then it seemed like after she had like a really big vacation, it was about a month long. So when she came back, she was down to like rowing with 30s and struggling. So she had a really, really sizable amount of strength loss as well. Now we're back up to it. I had her back rowing. She was rowing her 45s with no problem, doing her squats with a 40-pound dumbbell. So she's on the way back. But my point is, it finally clicked in her head that I've got to eat the food. And the key is, eat all of your food, get all of the nutrients and calories in, and get all of the protein in. And it will drastically change how your body functions and how your body looks. So I was really happy for her finally to have that light bulb moment and see that, okay, I've just got to eat the food. And I think a lot of us women, in particular, men don't really struggle with this. We are so calorie driven, right? We're so driven by, oh my gosh, I went over my calories. And we're in this constant state of wanting to create this deficit so we can lose weight, but no one ever loses weight. They just look worse. Or you have some that go so severe on the dieting trend, they do lose weight, but they've lost so much muscle and they look a hot mess. So prioritize, getting your protein in. And if you ever want to really figure out why old people look so saggy, it's because if you think about their diets, they don't eat protein. Most old people may eat one meal a day, and everything else that they eat is a nibble on a candy or a dessert item. They're always snacking on garbage or drinking like a Boost protein, whatever those are supposed to be, which are not very good. If you're giving your grandparents Boost, cut it out. Just make them a protein shake, please. So take care of your parents and your grandparents. Get their protein levels up. They will look better. They will feel better. They'll feel more firm. They won't be falling all over the place. They'll have less, breaks and fractures from increasing their protein. And most importantly of all, it has now been proven that people with low protein intake over large amounts of time have early onset dementia. So we are literally doing a lot of the damage to ourselves. When I lived in Europe, I look at the older people there, and they're in their 80s and their 90s, and everyone in Europe is always walking someplace. There's this urge to drive everywhere. It does not really exist there with the younger people, but the older people are still very moving, walking everywhere. And they look so solid. Like an old German lady is she's solid. She's as solid as a rock lady. You can hug them and it's like, wow, this, but you know why? They eat sausages all day long. There is a sausage between a bun. There's a sausage just hanging out on a plate. There's nothing but just meat eating happening all day. Tuna, you name it. They're just always eating meat. And it makes such it's a big difference. And when you're talking to older people there, 80s, 90s, sharp as a tack. I mean, mentally sharp. It was mind boggling to me. And the first 2 years, I was like, "Oh, I don't, who are these old people over here? Because these are not the American old people. I don't understand. These old people are different. They're rollerblading and Nordic walking and I mean, all kinds of cycling. And I mean, cycling with speed. It was just phenomenal to watch. But their diets are super high in protein, super high in carbohydrates too, but super high in protein. So I got to see it live in front of my eyes that, wow, protein intake makes a difference. We come to America and look at Americans, old age homes, all they give them are soft foods and soup. I mean, of course, your brain can't function. It doesn't have any of the nutrients it needs, period, to function. And I'm not sure how we got into this cycle in the United States that as we age, we must eat less and less foods and then less nutritious foods at that because you can go to a old person's home or nursing home and they have nothing but processed food snacks. And if your parents or grandparents are in a nursing home or you take care of them and you're giving them goldfish and garbage like that all day, stop it. Stop it because you're the caregiver. You're the caregiver and you're not doing yourself any favors by helping their health decline even further, even faster, right? So do what your parents would have done for you, hopefully, and feed them well, whole nutritious foods, and then you can still enjoy your parents or grandparents until that day comes when they're gone. But we are literally ruining ourselves from inside of the womb. We do. We don't do a good job, at least here in the US, with nutrition from the time we are in the womb. Moms will eat all kind of nonsense and garbage because we're eating for two. We've all heard it and we've all had the weird eating habits and the crappy food and I was there, I've done it too. So, I mean, I'm speaking for all of us. But if we think about it, if we are taking all of those nutrients to build a whole human inside of us, what are we thinking? Like, it's because we weren't educated, right? We're just not educated to know any better. And so I'm telling you, you have to eat well. You have to eat well so that we can age well, right? And there's a thing to this. It's called protein intake, vitamins and minerals. You need them to be a healthy whole person for a very, very long time. So I'm going to urge you guys, to start getting on the protein train, start tracking it, start looking at your body and the differences that it makes. Don't get so bent out of shape on the calories. Now, I'm not saying go blow your calories through the roof in a surplus 500, calories a day. I'm not saying that, but make sure you have enough of the protein and prioritize that and put the other macros in their own place respectively so that you're making sure you're getting enough. Um, Watching people waste away is hard for me because I know if they just make some changes, it'll happen. And even for my younger people in the gym, I see it all the time. When I'm observing in between sets, I can look at someone's body, women mostly women, and I'm watching them. There are some of you really working out very hard, and I love to see it. And then I see them 5 months later and they still look the same or worse. And then a year later and they still look the same or worse. And I know the problem is they're keeping their calories so low, but the protein so low that their body can't make changes. And for all of you girls with your booty shorts on, the scrunch booty and because you think the cheeks look good, those are not your glutes. That's just fat. your butt cheeks. That's not really what your glutes look like. You will know how big your glutes are when you lose fat. You will know the ticker tape. So, I mean, I know they look great in the shorts now, and I know you guys are slamming it, but to really grow the glute muscle that you're trying to grow underneath that, you have to prioritize nutrition. Legs and glutes need a lot of protein to change and grow. So if you're skimping out on that, you've been in the gym doing all your hip thrusts and you know, booty, whatever you guys are doing in there. Honestly, you're just giving everyone a show. You're not really doing anything else but giving all the guys a live booty show, and you're not even getting paid for it. So you might want to rethink the process. Just saying. I'm just saying. I'm just throwing it out there because I see it happening all the time. And side note, please wipe off your seats and stuff because you're getting crotch juice everywhere, and that is not cool. It's not cool. You ladies need to stop it. Just saying. So, that is where you need to be. Back to the protein. That's where you need to be on your protein intake. Make sure you're prioritizing it. And again, like I said, there's 5 pillars. It repairs and builds tissue, essential for your hormone production and enzyme production, supports your immune system, um, builds and grows, your muscle and maintains it. And then the last one, which is the biggest key, is it helps you feel full. So if you're skimping and you feel hungry all the time, it's probably because you just need to eat some protein. So if you've created your nutrition plan and you're trying to, you think you're in a good groove, but at the end of the day, you're always starving, check your protein amounts first. That should be the first place you add to first. Now, if you've added to the protein and you still feel like you're hungry this is in the same day, drink some water and see how you feel. In 30 minutes, if you're still hungry, then that means you need to bump your calories up overall, right? Like your body's definitely telling you, hey, we're hungry. Now, there's hunger and there's greedy. So you have to be honest in this process and say, am I legitimately hungry or am I just being greedy? So be mindful of that. But it'll help you feel full, and that's what that's there for. Here's a little trick. If you are struggling to get all the protein in, it's easier for people to have a whey protein shake. And if you're a person that struggles with cramming a lot of food in, then I would advise you have 1 or 2 30-gram to 50-gram shakes each day of a good quality whey protein. You can do an isolate or a blend, depending on what your fitness goals are. But if you do that and drink it, your body doesn't always feel as full when you have a protein shake. For me personally, drinking a protein shake was like drinking water. My body does not recognize it. It's like, okay, so what are we eating? So I don't even mess with drinking shakes. It's not my thing. I'll make a pudding maybe or something, but that's going to be a great way to get some protein in that won't make your stomach feel so distended or bloaty or full. So do that, and then you can fit, 3 meals in between there to get the rest of it in. So that's the easy way. Another easy way is to do egg whites. They're very easily digestible, and they also don't make you feel so stuffed. So that's another way to do it. If I've had a day where I'm really busy and get slightly behind, I always buy pre-boiled eggs. I'll pop the yolks out and then I'll just eat the egg whites. And I put a little bit of everything in bagel seasoning on it because if you know, you know. Yeah. A little dab of sometime hot sauce as well. And I'll slam about 6 to 8 egg whites, whole egg whites, and then I'm done with it. So that's another way to kind of get it in if you need to. If you're a vegetarian or vegan, what's going to be key for you, period, point blank, is to have a great plant-based protein powder on hand every single day. Because you're just not going to get enough from your, legumes and your beans, your tofu, any of that stuff. It's just not going to be enough. And you're going to end up really blowing it out with carbohydrates, right? Also, if you're vegetarian or vegan, well, if you're really a vegan, you're not going to eat a lot of processed um, vegan things, vegan protein like fake chicken and stuff like that. But there are some of you vegetarians that do eat those products. be careful with those too. Though they have a higher protein count, they tend to have a really high fat and carb count ratio, and not always the best fats, and carbohydrates. So really look at what you're eating there and try not to have too much of that. But having a protein powder for a vegetarian or vegan that needs to be a staple, in your nutrition plan, period. You have to have it, or you're not going to hit those protein markers. And then supplementation with other things, essential amino acids and things of that nature, is going to be key for you to have as well. That's also another little sneaky way to, it's not protein, but having essential amino acids. You can get it in powdered form, pill form. I always recommend doing powder form, better bioavailability, and you're not dealing with the outside coating of pills, which is, going to end up in the kidneys anyway. But going with essential amino acids, if you're a person that likes to do fasted things, fasted cardio, fasted workouts, fasted runs, cycling, whatever, use essential amino acids. It helps keeps muscle protein synthesis going. So it's kind of like a good bridge to keep the body from getting catabolic. So if you're a person that's struggling, also you can start doing 10 to 15 grams of essential amino acids each day to kind of help that process along. So those are a couple of tips that you can utilize until you get adjusted to trying to eat a little bit more food, because it's not easy, to eat more food. I mean, I'm eating average of 5,000 calories a day, and it's like a job. I feel like I eat all day long, so it can be pretty cumbersome. So those are some ways to just kind of sneak it in and knock out a large number. Sometimes I'll have a pudding and it's 2 scoops of protein. That's 50 grams. I'm done. And I can move on with meals from there. So give that a try. That is what I have for you guys on this episode 17 of the Do It Anyway podcast. I want to again thank everyone for joining me. Be sure to check it out on Applecast, Spotify, and YouTube. If you watch it on YouTube, like and subscribe. And I had a viewer say, let us know when you're going to answer questions. I'll do it periodically, so I'll just gather them up, and when I get enough, I'll answer. So please feel free to ask any and all questions, nutrition related, please, or fitness related, or, don't make them crazy is basically what I'm saying, because I did get a request actually to arm wrestle you, Ben, on one of the episodes. Not only did I get a question on the YouTube about it, I also got DM'd about it. So
to arm wrestle me?
Yeah. And I said, that's not what my channel is about. I'm not arm wrestling.
You destroy me. I mean, I don't even know I'm not even going to argue with that. I mean, I have drummer forearms, but I got nothing on you. That's crazy. What are you guys thinking? What are you trying to get me killed?
So, trying to break your wrist.
Yeah, exactly. I need these wrists. I can't do anything. Yeah.
So we're not doing any arm wrestling, but any other questions, definitely. I'm sure people want to know things about me, and I'm not an open book, but I'll tell some things if I feel that they're appropriate. I don't mind sharing. So with that, I want to thank everyone again for joining me, and we are out of here. I'll see you guys next Friday. Peace.